This is David Taub with GVWire.com here with Fresno Unified Superintendent Michael Hanson. We're here talking about Measure X. Obviously, you're a very big proponent about Measure X. Tell the voters why approve a $225 million bond.
A $225 million bond will allow us to continue the great work that the voters approved with 76% of the vote in 2010 on Measure Q. That was a $280 million bond that we were able to stretch into the $300 million plus with some state matching funds. And you can see that great work all across the city. Principally at every single one of our comprehensive high schools, you'll see signature projects. We've also done work at middle schools and elementary schools. We have removed, to date, 300 of our 1,300 portables. Those old portable classrooms are out now, and they've been replaced by permanent, brand new state-of-the-art classrooms. We're putting in new science labs and new theater arts buildings and things that are critical for student success. So what we have planned in this next bond is to really move forward on what was identified back in the master plan in 08-09, $1 billion worth of need. So the reason we're coming for $225 million is that allows us to keep the tax rate the same. As some bonds are paid off, we bring new debt on, and it keeps the tax rate the same for our taxpayers. It's very important for our board that we do not increase taxes when we do the bond and capital work in the district, and we agree with that. We're being very conservative about it. But this will allow us to get about halfway through the identified needs of the district capital project. So what people are going to see is brand new, important learning space and teaching space all across the community that will impact every single region of the district.
People say, why pass a school bond? How come stuff like this for capital expenditure for facilities isn't already included in the Fresno Unified budget? So how come you, when you need more money, you ask for more bonds as opposed to put it into budget you already have?
Well, it's because it's the state funding structure. Their Proposition 98 is the funding mechanism that gives the general fund dollars to the school for its operational functions. And then there is a bond structure that we have to use when we're going to do anything above and beyond that we want to do on the capital side. So sometimes we're fortunate enough that the state will run school bonds that we can match and draw upon. Sometimes they don't. But then communities, for as long as we can remember, in the state of California have to pull bonds to do their capital projects. And it was the same thing for us in New York State as well. If you want to build something, the local communities have to pony up to do it. And candidly, we've fallen far, far, far behind in Fresno Unified. We probably let our facilities lapse by decades before we embarked upon the master plan that we're pretty aggressively pursuing right now.
Now, the No on X crowd is gaining, raising their voice. They held a news conference the other day, yes, and they've been saying no blank checks. They want more transparency. What's your response to that to make sure that Measure X has this transparency that they're looking for?
Well, I would say if anybody wanted to look about the transparency, please go to our website and pull up the board meetings that are publicly, they're shown on TV and on the internet every time we meet every 2 weeks. As we talk about our bond, we do public communication to our board every week. That goes to the press, it goes to our union partners, and it goes, those are publicly available. We do that communication. We also do our Building Futures publication. That goes out to 155,000 homes. We've had multiples of those that go out talking about what we're trying to do with our facilities project. And like I said, our board is very public. We're probably the only district around, we are the only district around that publishes our information, the cover sheets and the backup material, 2 weekends more ahead of the meeting so that people have plenty of time to read through that. It's very transparent. If they could go watch what the people have been saying on the dais about the bond for months. I would say in terms of transparency, what we're proposing right now in Measure X is actually clearer and more descriptive than what we proposed in Measure Q. People seem to forget way back in 2010 when our board voted on Measure Q, what they voted on was a dollar value going to a high school. So Member Asadorian at the time voted for $35 million going to Bullard High School. And there was, I don't know, 10 or 11 million dollars or something in that neighborhood was going to just about every other high school. Member Mills, Member Johnson, all the rest of them. They voted on a dollar value that would go to a high school. We didn't even have the project planned yet. And then we built out the plan from there. So now what we have is we have 5 big categories that need to be met. And we actually have some specific schools with specific projects by region that we are proposing to take out and knock these projects out. For example, there are 26 multipurpose rooms or cafeterias that do not have air conditioning across the district. Only one high school, Roosevelt High School, but there are middle schools like Tenaya and Baird, but there are elementary schools, and they go all the way across the district. Those have to be fixed. It'll probably cost us maybe $13 million or so to do that. That's not something we could pull out of our general operating budget. We think that stuff needs to obviously be centered on having operational programs for kids. So when you really look at what we've prepared, it is more clear and more transparent and more descriptive now than what we did in Measure Q 6 years ago.
Now, there's some concern, and Measure X is also, the No One X folks are bringing up this point, about the transparency in the bidding process. They bring up the FBI investigations. How do you address those voters that that's not going to be an issue with Measure X?
Well, the only bidding issues that we've had is we had some bidding issues with one of our trustees submitting a bid with one of his companies on a modernization project we were doing at Fig Garden Elementary. So we are trying to work through the legal issues with our legal counsel and our board now. I'll leave that alone, but it's complicated. We do not have any bidding issues. The issue of lease back, there was an issue in the Fifth Circuit. A couple of other courts around the state have ruled differently. Law has been changed, I believe, and we're not using lease back as a delivery method right now, but other districts around here are. For example, Reedley is doing it. We actually have a trustee who says we shouldn't be using lease back, but he's actually with his company doing lease backs in other school districts. So, we're using a hard bid system right now, very transparent, and it goes to the lowest bidder. And we've been very proud with Measure Q that 90% of the money that came out and was awarded to folks stayed local with local companies. And we think it's a great design where local tax dollars are spent improving our schools, better teaching and learning spaces for kids and our staff, improves the property value, and the money from our taxpayers that keeps the tax rate the same goes right back into the pockets of folks in local companies. That's a great economic engine as far as we're concerned, and it does well for everybody in the community, and our kids get a better shot at life as a result.
And finally, what would the consequences be if Measure X does not get passed?
I think I said this yesterday. When I came to the district in 2005, Mayor Autry was talking about a tale of two cities. And Mayor Swearingen has been working on those issues for 8 years as well with the general plan and working in certain communities and so on and so forth. The tale of two cities is still alive and well. I mean, we have big rifts between issues of race and social class in our city, and we need to continue to work to provide for all. And every single zip code, every single neighborhood deserves the best quality schools, the best quality facilities we possibly can put forward. And I think this is, if we did not have Measure X, our building program would stop as soon as we ran out of Measure Q funds, which would be in the relatively very near future. And we would find ourselves stalled, and the students who need it the most, remember, we're a district with 90%, just about 90% of our kids are living in poverty. The students who need it the most are not going to get it. And it just doesn't seem to make sense when we've proven the model works, when we can dramatically improve schools. And at the same time, I would say, all of the metrics that we use to measure district improvement are all moving in the right direction. Student achievement is up. Graduation rates are up. College going rates are up. The improvement of our career tech ed programs are up. The building program obviously has had a dramatic impact on the city. And, it's just right on down to things like Wi-Fi on buses so that kids get better options when they're going to and from athletic events or to and from school. These are all things we're able to do because all parts of the district are operating together.